Hello, everybody. What a weekend that was. I know the weekend might be over and some people are slightly disappointed at that, but you can still get that Friday feeling by treating yourself to a ticket for Football Ramble Time Tunnel. You know that this May we're going on our little tour in Newcastle, Glasgow, Birmingham, Manchester and London, and you are all invited. There's a few people still saying to me, are there tickets left? There are tickets left. Don't delay. Get one today. Go to footballramblelive.com for all the dates and information. You will not be disappointed unless you're too late. That's footballramble.com. Come and see us, you beauties. Oh dear, right. I'll tell you what, Jim Campbell, international football. It's the one, isn't it?
You are giddy.
How good was it last night?
Today, aren't you? It was outrageous.
It was good.
It was exceptional.
Lots of goals, lots of penalties, lot of laughs.
Lots of quality football that make me think we really need to be at that top table because we are not learning anything against Albania.
Yeah, perhaps against Greece, though.
Perhaps against Greece.
Yeah, but we'll be back in Nations League Group A when it next comes around. We'll be ready for this knockout stuff, hopefully, Andy. Don't want to miss out. Before we get to that, we do need to talk about England. They're back in action tonight against Latvia in another World Cup qualifier. Of course, on Friday, England beat Albania 2-0. You all saw it. You all enjoyed it, especially you non-English people.
Yeah, what a treat. You're welcome. You are welcome.
Yeah, a nice slow England victory, eh? Oh! Yes. Well, you know, Thomas Tuchel's up and running, and Albania, they did make it difficult, but England got past them. The man of the moment, Peter Donaldson, was Myles Lewis-Skelly.
Well, not my man of the moment, but yeah, sure, fine. Yes, he played very well.
The man of the moment. Okay, have you got an alternative one?
I think you can think of one.
I'd probably think of a big lad at centre-back. Probably would suggest a man I'd very much like to see lifting the World Cup in New Jersey next summer.
So is that Lewis-Skelly's greatest achievement, stopping Dan Burn from playing at left-back?
Yes, yeah.
So everyone's happy.
Yeah, exactly. He can enjoy himself in centres.
Yeah,
they're a lovely little duo, though, aren't they?
Lovely
really
little
unexpected
duo. He technically started the move, didn't he, for his goal, I think? Technically started the move.
Big turning circle, though. Big turning circle on Dan Burn. I want to start talking about Myles Lewis-Skelly, though, Jim Campbell, your man at Arsenal, who likes to tuck inside into that midfield, make those runs and get on the end of those beautiful Jude Bellingham passes. What did you think?
I was very impressed with the goal, actually, because obviously everyone's talking about the Bellingham pass, which was brilliant. You know, you had to sort of split three defenders essentially to do that. But what I was impressed with was Myles Lewis-Skelly's strength to hold off the defender and the sort of the speed of thought and execution to pull off what he did. It looks very simple, but it's a very, very complicated thing to essentially just hold off a defender and nutmeg a goalkeeper with one touch at that speed. And I thought I was really, really impressed by that. And he looks at home, doesn't he? You mentioned him tucking in. He's been doing that for Arsenal. He started as a midfielder. He's only been a left back essentially since pre-season.
Since the Euros.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like I have more chance of getting that slot.
He's going to learn a lot from Dan Burn. That's what I'm saying.
He may well do.
I mean, you would feel invincible if you've got Dan Burn behind you, wouldn't you?
Yeah, like a big wall.
Yeah, and
you.
he's a strong player, Myles Lewis-Skelly, and he's very, very good in tight spaces. But he takes quite a lot of risks, and
which is what Tuchel wants.
He hasn't been dispossessed in a way that's turned out to be a disaster yet. But you can see it's in the post. Like it's just sort of, the way he plays suggests that it might be something you have to just sort of suck up at some point. But if you've got Dan Burn there, who cares?
Well,
you're fine.
Yeah, Dan Burn's recovery pace. Andy, he was man of the match, Myles Lewis-Skelly. Thomas Tuchel spoke about his character as well as his footballing ability. It's very early days, of course, but with that position up for grabs, he's made an enormous statement already.
More than that, I think, because surely if you're a coach at international level, and if you're a coach at international level that's so clearly on the clock, like Thomas Tuchel, who's very much been standing there tapping his watch since the moment he arrived, saying, let's not muck about, this is purely transactional, let's just win the World Cup and then I'll go back to not working at home, just being at home.
Stop inflating that, there's no time for that.
Exactly.
We're not going anywhere near the pool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think he's the sort of man who would like one of those couture tents, you know, where you like pull the cord and it's just up.
Yes, right.
That's him. And MLS is just game ready. I mean, really, to have a solution like that from the off is absolutely perfect. So you were saying he puts himself to the front of the queue. I think it's almost like he's finished the debate already, really. Unless something big happens to him, who's coming back and displacing him? He offers Tuchel far more solutions than he offers him questions.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that's it. You're right. But even if Tuchel signed a 3-year contract or something like that, or whatever England managers you usually offered, what you're looking for is, in that short time, is for a player to put on the England shirt and just take to it like a duck to water.
Yeah.
And he did more than that, really, if you can do more than that in that
Well, I mean,
analogy.
he's the youngest player to score on his debut, so I think very much he did do more than that.
Yeah, I think
Duck on a speedboat.
Boy, did you see when he... you're talking, Andy. Did you see when he was told by... I forget who the reporter was, forgive me, that only Wayne Rooney and Michael Owen were younger goal scorers for England than him, and he was just like, oh my goodness, he was really kind of quite taken with that. But again, just seems to take everything in his stride. Peter, you've waited long enough. Big Dan Burn.
Speaking of strides.
Yeah, was given his debut too. Oh, he nearly scored.
He did nearly score.
That would have been perfect.
That would have been great.
I think he offered quite a lot in that match. You talk about his recovery pace.
Yeah.
I think we overrate that sort of thing, to be quite frank.
Yeah.
It's really interesting, though, isn't it? The way that his performance really split people. In that, like, you have like a lot of people who will argue that he was really terrible and he's not up to the level, and a lot of people who argue that he did pretty well, and very, very little in the middle. And I found that's quite interesting. Normally, our reactions to England collectively and England individually are broadly the same, but I've heard so many different voices assessing Dan Burns. And it's one of those things, I think with Dan Burns, it's a little bit like left-footed penalty takers. You know, it's one of those weird things where people say, I don't trust left-footed penalty takers, mainly because you can't imagine yourself doing it, because it's like 10% of the population. And I kind of think that's about Dan Burns, because you perceive awkwardness. For some people, there always is awkwardness, but actually there's not.
There's
not
Harry
a lot of the
Maguire in a
time.
way. You know, there's an idea of him that is separate from the reality of him, and some people will judge the idea.
So we've got
regardless of whatever's in
a
front of them.
functioning Maguire.
Yeah, I
like it.
think with him, you kind of have to rely on the stats a little bit. His kind of his stats compared to even like Gaines and other players like in his position aren't that far away, but his heading is just way better than everyone else's. So it's like, well, if you're going to judge him on the balance, you kind of just have to rely on the stats a little bit, of which I do.
I love for corners. It was just
look
for him. Just look for him.
Just look for him.
It'd be ridiculous not to, wouldn't it? It's an interesting position as well for him to come into, because Mark Gay's been brilliant. He's having a really good season. He's been really good for England. Had established himself. So it's interesting that Tuchel wants to get a look at him. Be very interesting. I don't know if he'll make too many changes tonight. I guess we'll see. But it'd be very, very interesting to see if Burns starts again, because, you know, Gay might have to fight to get his place back there.
For me, if we're looking ahead to the tournament, which I always caveat with, assuming
that's how you
England
live your
qualify,
life, isn't it?
Indeed. But assuming England qualify, to me, Dan Burn is perfect material for fourth choice centre back. And the reason why I say that is because clearly
You're a sicko.
Well, maybe I am. But because to me, a good guy to have around the place. Fourth choice centre half tends to be, say, a Conor Cody or maybe Lewis Dunk at the Euros, a player who's probably not going to play.
Yeah. But this guy would be good enough to play.
Well,
that would be a massive step forward, wouldn't it?
Not for me. That's where I'm coming down on the line.
Right, okay.
So to me, fourth choice centre back is probably not going to play, but he's not really going to moan, and he's going to be professional, and he's going to be a good guy to have around. Conor Cody was the ideal for that, because if you're going to go away, blah 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 blah. I understand. I'm again projecting quite a bit into the future here in footballing terms. But you saw him when he got turned. I've always been a little bit wary of Burns' pace. And if England are going to play a high line, which I suspect Tuchel probably wants to do, you need to have a bit of recovery pace in there. And if Lewis-Skelly, who we think is going to be left back, which I think right now you'd be hard-pressed to find anybody who may well start ahead of him in bigger games and so on, you need someone there who may well fill in if Lewis-Skelly's tucking in or making runs forward. And I think with Burn, it's not like, oh, I didn't realise that he wasn't the paciest defender. We kind of knew this about Burn as well. And there were times when he was a bit ponderous, I would say, in possession. They all were. I understand that. But this seems really harsh criticising, because I thought he did okay, which is why I think he should be part of the setup. But I would be much more comfortable with, say, Gay there. Dare I even suggest Maguire with his experience? Although I feel that maybe Maguire's time is kind of done. So that would be my assessment. Is I don't think it's a case of, oh my goodness, he got turned by a quick player, chuck him out. I just think, okay, for him to be starting as an England centre-half, I'm not really too sure. I mean, you can imagine if he came up against the likes of, Vinicius Junior or something like that. I think
Would you be sitting back a bit more against those teams?
Possibly.
And also, there's plenty of England defenders who have been turned. Like I don't see the gulf that you see. Personally.
Yeah, I agree with Pete there. I think the thing is, when I'm always a little bit wary of projecting a coach's way of looking at a game in the club game to international level. But if we were to take probably the blueprint for what we want Tuchel to do for England is what he did at Chelsea, isn't it? Really to come in and win the trophy by repurposing what's already there and making them tighter and more intense. Who's one of his key defenders? Thiago Silva. He likes his defenders he's not going to play a massively high line. And I think as well, he likes physical defenders.
Okay.
So I think that makes Burn maybe not first choice going forward, but definitely in the mix.
And he adds a bit up top. And dead balls seem to be the flavour of the year, or flavour of the season. Certainly with teams like Arsenal.
I just don't see him starting over, say, Stones or Gay.
No, I don't see that either.
Obviously, we'll see, won't we? We don't know. But I thought it was very interesting that he partnered in with Konsa, who I think has got a chance to really make that spot his own as well.
Agreed.
He's a brilliant defender, Konsa. Probably quite heavily underrated, actually.
Yeah, well, Luke and I now predicted 11. We had him in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that is a horrendous duo to be coming up against, isn't it?
Marcus, what the big decision I think for you right now emotionally is what New Jersey-based band do you want to be listening to when the World Cup is lifted by Dan Burn?
One name does leap to mind.
Yola Tango, Monster Magnet.
I would like a bit of a Bon Jovi deeper cut.
Right.
Yeah.
The Misfits. You want to the Misfits?
I just don't
Midtown.
Don't do Living on a Prayer. Come on, leave that for the students. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe lay your hands on me and everyone has to reach up. There's plenty of him.
Yeah, good point, yeah.
Well, I guess we're looking at it with the way the international break has gone for the US so far. Their fans are probably looking for another team to adopt during the tournament.
They lost that third place match against Canada, of course.
Tommy and Gina are fuming.
I don't know, are they not retired now? Because they used to work on the docks. Anyway, we're getting into it now. Now, Thomas Tuchel did promise more intense and less fearful football, which
he got his just desserts, didn't he?
Yeah.
We don't really do that, do we?
Yeah. And isn't that performance a demonstration of the exact nut that he has to crack if he wants to get that? Because obviously they win 2-0, it's pretty comfortable. But
I thought it was fine.
Yeah, exactly. But it's fine, isn't it? And that's
it's not the 5-0 that England under Southgate beat Albania by.
But you know what? In a way,
5-0 at half time. That was Andy.
If we won that game 5-0 yesterday, long term, possibly even medium term, that is a disaster.
No, it is. Yeah, it is. It's an absolute
Do you imagine
disaster.
the expectation?
I mean, Tuchel's going to be very honest, as we know. Tuchel, that's how he plays the game, and he certainly was after this one. We can do better. We have to do better. I felt we were too slow, not enough runs off the ball to get behind the line. And he was right. And he highlighted the wingers, Foden and Rashford. Foden got a bit of criticism. It's fair to say. I know he's not had a great time this season, but he's still a quality player, for crying out loud. But being at the game when Foden had the ball, you were thinking, right, go and express yourself. And it was a bit like we've come to know Jack Grealish in a Man City show. Just check it back inside and don't lose the ball. Yeah. And again, it's one game. It's against a side who were posing very little attacking threat. And England,
but it's one game in a particular season, isn't it?
Well, indeed, Andy, and this is it, isn't it? So, and Tuchel himself said he wanted to see a little bit more driving with the ball and not so many kind of sideways passes.
Do you think that's why he picked Rashford? Because
Possibly.
I think it's really interesting when you look at Foden and Rashford. And I thought Rashford did okay. Them in the 11 really quite surprised me, actually, because, I mean, Rashford getting picked in the squad surprised me. It felt like a little bit too soon in his rehabilitation from, not being great for quite a long time. And, of course, people want him to succeed. I guess it's the same with Foden. You can't see the route to either of them being game changers for England at the moment. That's the concern, really. I mean, I don't know if it's because of the way they set up, but it felt like more of a reliance on Jude Bellingham than ever. Now, it's fine to be a bit reliant on Jude Bellingham because he's amazing and he's going to be England's best player for the next 10 years. So to rely on him a bit is fair enough. And I think bringing Curtis Jones in and having him next to Rice gives something completely different to Bellingham. And I think if there's one thing, actually, other than MLS, that he will have taken, Tuchel, from that game is that we've got to set up whatever the player next to Declan Rice is, and I think Curtis Jones has given himself a decent case for a starter there. Just allow Bellingham to do what he did against Albania, because especially a team like Albania, who the game I think panned out pretty much as you would expect. They're a good, competent side who are going to make it super difficult for you without really threatening you that much. So I think 2-0 is kind of par. It's what I might have expected beforehand.
Professional 2-0. Just
it's the bread and butter of international football.
Totally,
you need to know how to do it.
Totally, yeah. And but on Bellingham, Andy, some have wanted him next to Rice, and then perhaps.
Yeah, I don't get that at all.
Do you not?
No, I don't get that at all. And I think if you look at him in a...
Just to finish that, by the way, I'm sure everyone knows where I'm going. That next to Rice, and then you have a Palmer or Foden or Morgan Rogers or somebody in front, but you're not.
That's like fantasy football, and it's stopping your best player doing what he does best.
But we've got to have a go at them, Andy.
So I think that Andy,
my God, Didier Deschamps did that yesterday. I think he's been reading the English press.
Did you read the Romario and who was it, Rafinha interview?
No.
Where basically, I think I wasn't sure whether
Who's interviewing who?
Yeah,
it started off as Romario interviewing Rafinha.
I think Romario was interviewing Rafinha, and he said, "Are you going to score a damn goal against Argentina?" And he said, "I will. Fuck them."
Well, you can't argue with that.
So I'm saying, fuck them.
Rambo-esque.
Fuck them,
every
Andy.
time I think I can't love Rafinha more.
I will.
But Jim, go back to the
what I was
England
going to go
midfield.
back to with the Bellingham chat, Andy, is that I think I've been among the people who've thought, particularly in the Euros, why don't you put Rice, Bellingham and Foden in? And I know that you're sacrificing some of Bellingham's attacking instincts, but he's a very strong player, and that in theory seems to bring a balance to the midfield. So is it that you think that wouldn't work, or is it that you think that the cost that comes at isn't worth it?
The latter, definitely, because I just think you have to allow Bellingham to do what he does best. And I guess it's kind of like the thing that you had, if you go back like 10 years with, say, Delhi. If you look at the fact that when he first came into the Tottenham team, he played in that 2 quite deep. He's really good at it. But that doesn't mean that's the best position for him.
Well, I mean, Jones is being asked to play a little bit deeper as he was for Lee Carl's under-21.
Yeah, I mean, but
it's not quite the same.
I think that kind of suits him, and he doesn't have the attacking potential of Bellingham. He doesn't have the vision of Bellingham, and that's not criticism of him, because just no one does really. And you find as time's gone by, all this talk at Real Madrid this season has been, how do we get Mbappe and Vinny to work together? How do we fit them together in the same team? And they've realised halfway through the season that that's not really the right question. The right question is, how do we create the best possible relationship between Mbappe and Bellingham? That's the real question, because he was their most important player for the first 2/3 of last season, Jude Bellingham. Now, since they've got them closer together, Real Madrid are cooking. And you know what? That's exactly what you need with Kane and Bellingham for England. And I think in the bits where England properly cut Albania open, it was all Bellingham.
Well, they'll be cooking until Myles Lewis-Skelly trashes their kitchen, Andy, in the next round of the Champions League. Okay, well, interesting point. As I say, that's a debate that I think will probably always rage on, but good to have your thoughts, of course. And I mean, yeah, Saka would normally be on that right side, so I think a lot of people would want to see Palmer and Foden involved somewhere. But Tuchel said, you've got to get the balance right. Now, I know Southgate knows this and other previous things about it, but there's always been that chat. You know, Southgate criticised for having Foden on that left-hand side, where perhaps, you know, we wanted, say, Gordon, for example. But Tuchel's already said this, hasn't he, Jim? And I don't know, I feel that with his ruthlessness, or I don't know, whatever you want to call it, I have hope that he doesn't succumb to media pressure or whatever it is. And I don't think Southgate did for the most part, but the balance needs to be there.
Also, Tuchel has the luxury of not having to care so much.
Yeah.
Because he
short
doesn't live
contract, coach rather than manager,
exactly,
kind of all that stuff.
Yeah, short contract. He's not English, so it's not going to sort of dog him for the rest of his life in the way that, you know, like one bad result can for an English manager. He doesn't look the type of person who's going to be fazed by that sort of thing anyway. And I think you're right. Like, the idea of having everybody available and leaving Cole Palmer and possibly Phil Foden as well on the bench makes me feel a bit sick. But that's exactly what you have to what you have to go against, isn't it? Because that balance isn't necessarily going to be right. It's going to be a slightly weird, clunky team where you're going, why isn't this working? All of these players are brilliant, and it's going to be very, very interesting to see. I think who starts on that left-hand side. I think you're probably right. I imagine he'll go with Saka on the right, and
When he's fit, of course.
yeah, when he's fit. And I wonder how Foden gets into this team, because I think the wide positions on the right particularly aren't the best uses of his strength. So it seems silly to...
Regardless of that, Jim, he shouldn't be playing given the season he's having.
Yeah,
you
sure.
know, I think it's that simple. I take your point totally, but at the moment, his form is making his mind up for him.
He needs a bit of a rebrand, doesn't he?
I mean,
in the summer, maybe a slight position.
I know.
change
Well,
or
like I
something.
said, should be. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, take it from me, by the way, in terms of having quality players on the bench and you're not sure. Tom Cairney's usually on the bench for Fulham.
Yeah.
You know, how do you think that makes me feel? But then you got Iwobi, you got Smith Rowe. Don't worry. Just trust the manager.
Phil Foden's got to look forward to being England's Tom Cairney. I mean, that's a noble pursuit.
Nobody can be compared to Tom Cairney, and don't be bloody ridiculous. Peter, you said about Thomas Tuchel being more of a coach. Well, as often is the case, a fashion expert agrees with you.
Right, okay.
Claiming that Tuchel's casual style set against the more formal Gareth Southgate style, although Southgate wasn't always that formal, an M&S polo shirt and so on. But anyway,
he's never quite Brian Ferry, though, was he?
Not quite, Andy.
Formal casual.
Formal, casual.
Yeah.
Is what he went for. But Tuchel, apparently this casual style reveals that he wants to be viewed as a coach more.
Well, he sort of went for a sort of light sort of trench coat, didn't he? It's sort of like the sort of thing, if I was going to sort of characterise that look, I would say Chelsea supporter having a bit of beaky chat on the tube on the way to ruin an Indian restaurateur's night. Like that's how I would review Thomas Tuchel's look.
Okay.
You can imagine being quite chippy on the tube.
So along with the fashion advice, there was also a body language expert.
Love it.
So much you have to put up with. Body language experts, fashion criticism, ratty little men going through your bins at 1 o'clock in the morning, like straight in there as England manager.
Yeah. Who would you like to play on Tuchel to play on the flanks against Latvia tonight?
Well, Anthony Gordon's not fit, is he?
No,
so I would
he's gone
imagine that he will go with Rashford again. The right-hand side...
Get Bowen in there.
Yeah, I mean... It's a funny one, isn't it? Because Tuchel said nobody is going to be dropped based on their performance against Albania. So that implies to me that he probably will start Rashford and Foden again. I would like him to see. I would love to see him have a look at Bowen, because he also said, I don't know why we were sort of so timid on the flanks, and the direct running that you get from Bowen at his best is just monstrous. He's a brilliant player, and I think another quite underrated player. So yeah, I would prefer. I'd prefer Bowen to Foden there, just because it's a more natural fit of his strength.
And the way that Bowen has played every time he's come on for England just deserves serious consideration as a starter. He's just a proper knockdown, like all action, hard working man.
And he's a hard working player in a defensive sense as well.
Yeah. I think he's often forgotten about when it comes to England, because he comes and goes, oh yeah, there's Bowen. But if with Kane liking to do his thing when he drops deep, and as I say, having runners beyond Kane who can finish as well.
Yeah,
I think there's huge, and with Bellingham as well in there, I think Bowen's got a chance. I mean, I know we talk about when Saka will come back, but Saka's currently injured, so I'd like to see
the two of those make more sense as the options, though, don't they?
Quite possibly, Jim. As time goes on, we should say. But I'd love to see Bowen given a chance, or maybe Eza. Although I know he was better in the centre, but I just want to see Eza.
Yeah, me too. Start everyone in the centre. Palmer, Foden, Bellingham, Eza.
Big Dan Bowen at the back.
Yeah. Do that really tedious, two teams. It's change at half-time crap.
Yeah,
used to see in the friendlies.
We could do that. But or like a lot of pundits, I'd like to see him, and they name about 14 players. Right, who's starting though? No, I just like to see. Okay, fine, you can't.
Myles Lewis-Skelly tucking into that position as well, of course.
Exactly, yeah. Now, everybody, Jim and I will be recording a Ramble React straight after full time tonight. So make sure you're subscribed to the Football Ramble feed, where we'll be dissecting England's performance against Latvia. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, you can also click Settings and turn on automatic download so that you're never short of an episode of the Football Ramble, no matter where you are. Coming up after this, a stunning night of Nations League action.
Is that the legendary Dwight Gale, is it, who missed the chance in the quarter-final against Manchester City? Is that the same Dwight Gale? Okay, interesting.
Well, Matt, Football Ramble, everybody. Stevie Bruce is back.
Learning a few things from Donald Trump in the way that he delivers some withering lines.
Oh, yeah.
He's practiced that. He has practiced that, hasn't he?
Do you think he has?
Yeah,
Definitely.
in the mirror, definitely. He had a little bit of time to do it. He knew he'd get asked about it, and he still fluffed it a little bit. And I, as a man who does that frequently, love it.
Just to give a little bit of context, because everyone hasn't seen this, Dwight Gale, former Newcastle United man, revealed his experience of working under Steve Bruce recently, and he recalled a game where they were gubbed 5-0 by Man City in particular, and he claimed that he and Matt Ritchie had been asking for guidance weeks ahead of the game. When they came in 2-0 down at half-time, Gale claimed that Bruce said, "Boys, you keep asking for tactics. I don't do tactics. Just put your boots on and work hard." And Steve Bruce was asked about this and wasn't best pleased at all.
Yeah, I love that he doesn't actually refute it either.
No.
He doesn't, does he?
Dwight Gale, is it? Oh, he missed that chance that I had to Google earlier that time. So who's he to talk? He made a mistake once.
Because it really has to, because he knows it bloody happened and he was there. And it burned like a big fire in his soul. Brilliant.
Oh, that's poor. Well, this was, of course, after Bruce's Blackpool had won against Northampton. But yes, he said, "Is that the legendary Dwight Gale? As you saw, I've been around a long, long time. I've only managed 1,050 games, but according to Dwight, I don't know what I'm doing. I'll let other people make their minds up who are a bit more established than Dwight ever was." Oh!
All right, Brucey, we've had a think, and turns out you're not good enough for the Premier League and never have been.
Oh, there's the stinger.
Is there?
Very good Championship manager. Very good.
Is he being overlooked a little bit in his part in Newcastle's Carabao Cup win? Is he the Houllier to Liverpool's Benitez?
Should they have invited him into the dressing room afterwards?
I should have run onto the pitch like he does in FIFA.
I prefer that than the Saudi one, lots, to be honest. If he could carry the Carabao Cup around.
Could he?
Yeah, at the end.
Well,
lovely. Get
Poor
your
old
pictures
Steve
taken.
Bruce.
Poor Steve
Andy.
Bruce.
Poor old Steve Bruce.
As everyone in Newcastle always says.
Yeah.
Beef, is it?
Yeah.
Bacon, is it?
Good win against Southampton, though. Right, thanks to friend of the Ramble, Tom, for sending us that clip. You can become a friend of the Ramble too by heading over to patreon.com/Football Ramble. You'll get access to the Discord where you can chat with us and other Ramble listeners, ad-free episodes of the Ramble, and brand new bonus content every single Wednesday. All for just $5 a month. Head to patreon.com/Football Ramble and sign up now. Last night was vindication for me, Jim Campbell.
It was.
What?
A stunning night in the UEFA Nations League.
I thought you dropped shipping laser pens.
Oh, did you?
Well, there was no laser pens seen in this match.
Not in this. Which match are you talking about?
Oh, we'll crack on and reveal.
Right, okay.
All right, fine.
Yeah, it was brilliant. I mean, I get the impression that there are some people around here who are non-believers and don't belong, Andy.
I'm not one of them.
I know you're not
Get
one of
stuck
them.
into him.
Come on. The second legs of the Nations League quarterfinals delivered last night. Some were not sure about two legs, understandably so. But that kind of drama is unbelievable. 3 of the 4 matches went to extra time. 2 matches went to penalties. And everyone was happy. Even those who got knocked out, I think, knew that they'd participated in something great.
I mean,
special,
some would argue that the players were so exhausted after the second of these superfluous matches that went to extra time and penalties that they couldn't bring themselves to celebrate.
Wow. I thought the celebrations, you showed it
you
mean
could
something.
see in their eyes that a lot of those players were thinking, you know what? This Club World Cup is a brilliant idea. Let's just have more and more
matches,
of this.
please. Yeah.
This is what UEFA
Exactly
are doing.
what they're saying.
UEFA are thinking, how can we ruin that Club World Cup? More matches around. Let's start with Spain and Netherlands. They drew 3-3 on the night. It was 5-5 on aggregate. Spain won 5-4 on penalties. Pedri scored the winning spot kick. But Andy, what a game it was. It was proper attacking stuff. The Dutch gave a great account of themselves.
Yeah, they did. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because of course, Spain are in a great spot at the moment. They've come a really long way in the last year or so, year and a half.
Last time they were beaten, Andy? Hampden, back in March 2023, nearly 2 years ago. Yeah, when they lost 2-0 to the Bonnie Scots.
Oh,
since then, they've beaten everybody in the course. They were
and
magnificent
Rodri's
at the
still
Euros.
moaning about it.
Yeah. But you were going to say, Andy?
I was going to say, I think what it underlines is that Spain are good, but they're not miles ahead of everyone else, which I think makes the World Cup really exciting in 2026. But every time you watch Spain, it's difficult to not convince yourself that Lamine Yamal's just going to own the World Cup.
Yeah. Oh, he scored a lovely goal as well.
Again.
That takedown, if you are going to give any player at that level that sort of space, that sort of touch is kind of automatic for a lot of players nowadays at that level.
Yeah.
So you kind of, they are probably going to put those away, but the finish was absolutely beyond reproach.
Yeah, he was a quality player. Your Bay, Memphis Depay scored in his 100th cap.
Yeah, wonderful to see him back in the old continent.
Yeah, indeed, yeah.
He said the commentator on the unbelievably, unfathomably annoying UEFA Nations website, UEFA.com.
Sign in.
Sign in. All right, I've linked it to my Google account. Why am I not
with that before?
Yeah,
so you've got to remember what you signed in with before,
and
you got
to type in what your date of birth is. Why? You can show some erotic football. What's going on? But the commentator went, Memphis has scored, and in my head it was like the Crime Busters off the sea, Sharky and George.
Yeah, always nice to be reminded that he's currently playing for Corinthians. Brazil. A big agreement there. Something we can all get behind. France will face Spain in the semi-finals. Tasty one, Jim Campbell.
They were 2-0 down and they turned it around.
2-0 they won on the night against Croatia. And that was a funny old penalty shootout. Croatia missed a couple. And Croatia managed to dig themselves out of anything. And France had match point. They were 2 up in the shootout, but then they managed to bring it back and it went to sudden death. And then Mike Maignan does what he does and saved. And Aperna Bacani scored as well. So, yeah, I tell you something, though. The way France kind of set themselves about this, I wondered if they were going to kind of labour to a 1-0 victory. But it was all full throttle. They bloody wanted this.
Elise was brilliant.
He was
amazing.
Brilliant. He really looks like he's arrived on, just at the absolute pinnacle of the game. He stepped up to that level just so easily.
Well, we were talking about this earlier, and I think the interesting thing is it's the time that Elise has arrived for France, at the time where it's the player they're lacking, the exact sort of player they're lacking, that bit of magic to unlock the door. And it's funny because the relationship that a nation's press has with its international players, it's always a little bit, right, you must impress me. You must justify the reason that you're here. Whereas actually, the will on both sides with Elise, and I know he's considered obviously quite a prickly interviewee, is not so much because, I know it's interesting, I guess it's certain limitations imposed on him because his French isn't as good as his English, although it's good enough. But he's trying really hard to respond to the media, to get himself across to people. And on the other side of it, they really want him to succeed. So much so it's the sort of two-way relationship that's really positive that you don't really get that much in international football. There's such a desire to see him succeed. And his fellow players, the supporters, they're all delighted to see him score what was, of course, his first goal for the French national team. And it opened the game up. And he created the second one.
Do you think that's... Yeah, no, that's good to hear. Do you think that... because obviously he was born in England and grew up here and was obviously eligible to play for England among a few other nations. Do you think the fact that he chose France and the fact that he was... still is an excellent young player, but obviously there was a lot of hype around him and where's he going to go? Do you think that he chose France ahead of England, where most people probably thought he may well go? Were they, I don't know, rather pleased, rather, I don't know, touched, for want of a better word, about that?
Maybe. I think.
Am I being a bit too sentimental?
No, I don't think so. But on the other hand, I tend to think it's like a relationship of discovery, because we think of him as a huge player who we've known, having seen him for Palace for years, is going to be a world beater when he gets fit and gets a run of games. Whereas actually, if you think about it, the Premier League is watched all over the world. I don't know if Crystal Palace are watched all over the world. And until he goes to Bayern, like a lot of French, until he gets in the French national team as well, like a lot of French supporters haven't seen him. So it's quite unusual to have this. There's no mystery really today, is there, to footballers? We see them coming from when they're teenagers. We see their whole journey. It's a bit like the Truman Show. Whereas because of where he's come from, there's a sense of, oh, this guy's signed for Bayern, he must be pretty decent. Oh, he is pretty decent. So it's like they're discovering him, or like kind of like the relationship that Germany has had with Harry Kane, but more so. I mean, in that sense, people have seen him for a long time, but now they're seeing him close up. And, German football supporters, Bundesliga fans, Bayern fans, in the last year and a half have been, oh my God, he really is good. And there's been a freshness to the way that people have seen Harry Kane. But that's that times 100, really, with French football supporters in Elysée.
I see. Andy, a man that we're all very familiar with is Cristiano Ronaldo, and his Portugal side beat Denmark 5-2 on the night, and they did need extra time. And Mr. Ronaldo himself won a penalty in the early minutes and then missed it, Peter.
I love to. Well, do I love to see it?
You do?
Yeah. That will be an enduring love of mine.
That's why you tune into the Saudi Pro
endless
League.
love.
Kasper Schmeichel loves a penalty save.
He does.
He does.
And it's a big one to get one against Pinaldo, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I think it's only Jan Oblak that saved against both Pinaldo and Messi, which is very
Like
impressive,
that.
isn't it? But yeah, it struck me that we have been watching this since Euro 2004. He's never going to stop, is he?
No.
He's just never going to retire, and there's going to be a point where it's like, he's 60. This is weird. Like,
He'll play at the Saudi World Cup.
yeah.
He'll have to. That's in his contract.
It's more and more frightening as each day passes.
Do you reckon he'll be the Mr. Burns head on a metal body?
Could be.
maybe.
Like in the World Cup in 2056 or whatever.
He did score a crucial one.
He did.
And it was a really good goal as well.
It's a great finish.
It was a nice finish. I mean, what a game, though. I mean, I think Portugal were always kind of nudging ahead and had the home advantage and proved good. But it was just another great night of Nations League. It does happen.
It was, and I think the fact that it was all happening at the same time. I was trying to keep across it all on the radio, and we had a show plan that went totally out the window because there was so much happening in the games that were actually on at that time. It was genuinely exciting.
Well, it was.
You know when we talked about like the restructuring of the Champions League, creating the illusion of excitement rather than the illusion of jeopardy, rather than actually providing it. I think this actually was jeopardy and excitement.
Sometimes you UEFA get it right, Andy.
They do.
And of course, Portugal will face Germany in their semi-final, and the mini tournament that is now the semis and the final will be held in Germany because they beat Italy 5-4 in aggregate. That was a funny old game. Germany 3-0 up at half-time. The tie ended 3-3 on the night, as I say, 5-4 in aggregate. I mean, it was ridiculous, that first half. Germany was so much the better side. And when Musiala scored their second goal after Italy had basically stopped playing, Donnarumma comes out of his goal. He makes a great save, corner given. He comes out of his goal to have a go at the ref.
I think was he organising his defence maybe? Kimmich takes it quickly and then it's a delightful little,
just taps
little
it.
sneaky tap in. But it was a sort of like a finessed tap in.
The fact is, from Italy's point of view, that goal is a disgrace. Like, they basically just stopped playing, and so Kimmich thought, thanks very much.
I just think at that point, it's passion time, right? And you need to give, certainly the Italians, you just need to give them 30 seconds just to passion, then depassion, then you can take the corner.
Yeah.
And that should be special Italian dispensation.
It's funny, though, because from the start, you think, OK, Germany versus Italy in Dortmund, this is peak international football, isn't it? Because it reminds you of the 2006 World Cup semi-final, which is one of the great World Cup matches. And then, when it got to the second half, as you say, Germany was so comfortable, and they thought, actually, with a home team in Dortmund, let's defend like someone falling down a flight of stairs 3 times in a row.
Yes. And Moise Kean was very much, I'll have that, thank you.
Yes.
Well, great performance from him. But Germany were the winners, and they will host the mini tournament, which we're all very much looking forward to, of course.
Is it a bit like
Eurovision World Cup?
Eurovision, when you if you win, you have to host. So a lot of teams will not want to win because it's expensive.
Yeah, then Ireland keep winning it and have to just pull out at some point. We do have a sneaky little international tournament this summer. It's
we do.
Yeah. The final, Marcus Speller, in which case you're always aware of
the
it.
The final is on the 8th of June, as I say, so that it's just in time before the Club World Cup starts.
It never stops.
No, it really doesn't. The Club World Cup will finish just as pre-season is kicking off, and then that'll finish, and we're back
we'll
to
have
the
the pre-season tours as well.
All that business.
Getting more and more high profile.
If you want more international football chat, and why wouldn't you? Andy and I will be discussing the early favourites for the 2026 World Cup over on the Football Ramble YouTube channel. So catch that video later today, and make sure you subscribe and turn your notifications on so that you never miss an upload from us. All right, coming up after this, Greece win again in Britain. Scotland 0, Greece 3. Greece know how to win on this island, it's fair to say.
Greasy peeps, man.
Scotland have been relegated to League B of the Nations League after they were comfortably beaten at Hampden. I mean, it was Grease lightning, wasn't it, Peter?
It was, yeah. I thought Scotland looked okay in the opening exchanges. McTominay sort of got in and behind it a couple of times. I thought he put a couple on McGinn's plate, but he just couldn't manage to finish. And like I said before, no pen lasers needed to win. So
no, and that became a problem for Scotland. There was nothing really going forward, no runs in behind, as a lot of people said.
And is there anything more deflating than conceding a goal like 20 seconds into the second half?
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, because they had so much to do already, and then it's just done at that point, isn't it?
Yeah. The average age of Greece's side was 23. So a very young team, of course. But 17-year-old Konstantinos Karetsas making his first start for Greece after switching allegiance from Belgium. Bloody hell, he looks a player.
He really does. And Belgium have got a huge problem with this at the moment because they're rebuilding and they're getting a lot of their dual nationals nicked by other teams. So there's a big discussion about that in Belgium at the moment. And this will have accelerated this because he had a terrific game as well.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, the average age of that starting side, 23. They've had impressive wins recently. Greece, they're doing all right.
Are they on the verge?
Well, as is the tradition with Greece in international tournaments, I don't like to back them, which means that they have more of a chance, as we've seen. But they've got a good team, as England saw. Obviously, won at Wembley, and then and England, they won 3-0, but I felt that flattered England a little bit. But they're a force, and Scotland have to play them twice in World Cup qualification in the autumn, and they won't be looking forward to that.
No.
And John McGinn said, with regard to the 3-0 loss, he said it was an embarrassing game for them. There were loud boos when Billy Gilmour was subbed off after 55 minutes. And I wonder about Steve Clarke at Scotland. He's been in the job since 2019, of course. And there are little parallels with him and Scotland and Southgate in England in that with Southgate, his supporters, as I was one, would say, but look, he's punched through certain ceilings.
Look what it was before.
Exactly.
But you're getting a definite sense, I agree, Marcus, I don't know if this is where you're going with this, of that familiarity breeds contempt relationship.
Yeah.
And his reaction every time he's explaining a loss, he's really irritable and tetchy. And whereas that was just the end of Southgate, he's been quite irritable and tetchy with the media for really quite a long time now.
Yes.
What he probably wants to say is, we don't have enough goals in the side, and I literally cannot create them out of nothing. There needs to be Scottish footballers being better.
Yes.
I cannot. He's just like you're saying, he's just kind of like bouncing his head off a glass ceiling. He can't sort of break through. Yeah. Although he's broken through a few in his time.
Yeah, qualifying for the Euros, of course. Yeah. Like that's huge and some statement wins. But you're right, Pete. I think there's only so much you can do. But I think there's a fair few fans up there which is thinking, all right, now we've found this new level. Can someone else
take us to the next level?
Which,
yeah,
of course,
I agree.
Obviously, Southgate left the job himself, but that's what England fans are very much hoping with Tuchel. I don't know. Does Scotland go German themselves? Where's Bertie votes these days?
If you're going to push him, I guess you're going to push him before the start of the World Cup campaign, right?
Well, that's it. And I
get a hired gun in. It can do tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, it would kind of be a bit of a shame, but I mean, that's what England have done. That's what Ireland have done. In terms of getting a foreign coach who just like, can you get this? I mean, different situation, of course. So I do wonder with Scotland whether the criticisms and the moans towards Clarke will get even louder as time goes on. But
the results make that completely reasonable, don't they?
Yeah, and it would be a shame for him because there's no doubt he's. Again, from the outside looking in, he's done well, getting them to those two. And again, here I go. I sound like one of his defenders. And some people go, yeah, that's all very well, but that's in the past now. We want to kick on.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't
know who would take over.
If you're looking at playing...
Well, I do actually.
More interesting football. Yeah. If you're looking at playing more interesting football over time... I think Ian Cathro's going to be in the mix at some point. Now, probably not yet. He's doing an unbelievable job with Estoril this season in Portugal. But, of course, what everyone in Scotland remembers him for is that short, very ill-fated spell at Hearts. And so he's probably going to have to either coach a bigger Portuguese club, and he's very plugged into Portuguese culture, speaks excellent Portuguese, or he's going to have to do like a mid-table job in Spain or Germany before he gets that platform and before he gets the chance for Scotland, which is maybe something a bit later down the line for him. I guess that's it, isn't it? When you're presenting an international coach, it's not just can you do the job, it's can you convince people that you're able to do the job. It's more important. That part of it is more important than it is with the club team, I think, to get people on side before you've really done anything.
Yes.
Marcus, before I move on from this section, can I do my big joke of the week?
If you must. Here we go.
Regarding 17-year-old Konstantinos Karetsis making his first start for Greece after switching allegiance from Belgium, you might say the Scottish switched their allegiance to Greece some time ago. It's because their food is unhealthy. Marcus is because they fry everything in the fryer.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I was going on the whole, they've got a town called Elgin. They've got the Elgin marbles. Norm MacDonald-esque is what I would say to that.
Yeah, really good stuff.
Mine was better than yours.
Yeah. Ireland beat Bulgaria 2-1 to retain their League B status. Big win for Ireland, that.
Yeah, and a lovely goal from Evan Ferguson as well.
It was a nice goal.
It's fair to say he needs.
Oh, big time.
Good to see old Fergie and Paz up front. Fergie and Evan Ferguson and Troy Parrott.
Adrian Paz.
Now you're talking.
First competitive start for Jake O'Brien as well.
Yes.
That's surprising, that, isn't it?
Made a difference.
Yeah, but he only just started playing for Everton, though, didn't he?
Yeah, but I mean,
No, but I agree with you, Jim. The whole season has been strange, really, for him. He should have played more than he has, and he's making up for it now, I guess.
Yeah, they obviously won 2-1 on the night, and it's the first time Ireland have won back-to-back games since March 2023. So good stuff for them. A group of Bulgaria fans, though, were taking the piss out of the fine city of Dublin. They sat in the stands with a banner that read, "You have no metro."
I like it. Shots fired.
They've got a big stick, though.
They have a big stick. A new metro line called Metrolink is planned to be built, with construction slated to begin between 2026 and 2031.
Was that the immediate reaction to that banner?
I'd like to think
City's
so.
like, they're right, this is embarrassing. We've got to fix this.
Hopefully the next time Bulgaria play in Ireland, there will be at least a start made on the
And maybe some
Metrolink.
more advice.
Maybe.
Fingers crossed they get
city
them
planning.
fingers crossed they get them in the Euro qualifiers, eh?
Yeah, all fingers
I
crossed
beat
for
us
that.
off here and I fell off a bit of pavement, rolled my ankle. So sort your pavement out, Bulgaria. So I was there.
A bit of pavement.
Just a bit of pavement.
It's not called just a pavement.
a bit of pavement.
You stood on a big
My
rock.
bit of pavement I was using.
It depends where the bit of pavement is.
Yeah.
If you're in a shop,
If you do
and there's
take
a bit of pavement on the floor, you might trip over it.
If you do take it back to your hotel room, Jim.
Yeah, fell off a bit of pavement.
Yeah, you're like a football fan taking up a bit of the turf. Oh, I love this place so much, I'm taking a
Yeah.
bit of the city. Wales beat Kazakhstan 3-1. Not the most convincing of victories, but a victory nonetheless for Craig Bellamy's boys.
The Craig Bellamy Wales party continues. I think it was. I don't know. I think it was fairly convincing, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Didn't really look in any danger of not doing it.
Okay. Well, all I'll say is that he was asked about their next match against North Macedonia, who people would expect very much to be a sterner test. And he said, "We will have to be at our best. I don't look at everything like I'm living with a knife between my teeth. We have to embrace it and be excited." Channeling a bit of the Nathan Jones spirit there.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Is that possible?
Yeah, true. Bellamy did say, though, that he's a lot calmer now since he's been Wales manager, which is something we've all observed. But good to see him, even though he was saying he's not doing it, just to hear him say, living with a knife between my teeth. I thought, no,
It's a lovely image.
I don't look at everything like I'm living with a knife between my teeth.
Not everything.
The knife is still around.
Yeah.
Just
Still on my
most
person,
things.
just not in my mouth.
Yeah.
But if I watch politics, hand me my knife.
It's funny, though, because there was a definite point. You talk about that calmness. That's clearly admitted to the team because there's a definite point where they could have lost their shit. You look at the Kazakhstan equaliser, which Darlow almost saves. He almost saves the penalty and it sort of creeps in. I've never seen a penalty creep in so apologetically. And then about like 3 or 4 minutes later, you have that VAR check for what's the most blatant red card ever. And the referee goes over, looks at it and just gives the Kazakh player a yellow card. instead of a red, which you expect to be coming, and they just get past it.
Well, they said at half time, Bellamy, I forget which player it was, called him Mr. Calm, and came into the change room at half time and was like, right, come on, we know what we're doing. And of course, Ben Davies scores a very enjoyable close range diving header to put them back in front. So when I say it wasn't convincing, I think that there was a little bit of jeopardy, as Andy mentions there, and then they got the clincher kind of late on. So look, job done, but
knife sheathed.
Yes, indeed, yeah. But they may well need to take it to step
Kick
up an
up a
extra
gear.
level. Yeah, exactly. I mean, Bellamy himself admitted that for the game against North Macedonia.
A win's a win, a win.
A win's a win, and that's all you can ask for, really, if you are a fan of certain teams, like England, for example. But we hope for more tonight against Latvia.